even right now. You see, this is why we need a stimulus check. This is why the plan that Andrew Yang talked about is effective. We can't afford to pay people $1,000 a month. We can't afford to pay people $2,000 a month. If we're spending trillions on the military, why can't we spend money on sending checks to people?
Yeah,
if we can bail out these big companies, then you know the whole concept about social.
I know too, but yeah, the idea is two wrongs make a right, but they don't, and we couldn't. The bailouts are a mistake. I mean, just because we made the mistake of bailing out the banks in 2008 doesn't mean that we should repeat the mistake by bailing out the airlines or the hotels. And just because we made the mistake of bailing out Wall Street doesn't mean we compound the mistake by bailing out Main Street.
Let's bail out nobody. But why do we bail out? Like, why do we bail out the too big to fail? What is the
Well, because obviously there's two reasons. One is the politics of it, you know, from they're going to, the industries that get bailed out are going to recycle some of that bailout money and line the pockets of the politicians that voted to bail them out, right? I mean, that's a quid pro quo that's going to happen. But also when it comes to economics, right, you have the seen and you have the unseen, the effects. And when a government bails out a business, the immediate benefits to those who receive the bailouts are there. The company is there, the jobs are saved. And the people who benefit from the bailout, they're known and they will vote for you. But what you don't see are the negative consequences that are widely dispersed throughout the economy where there's no political constituency for that. But let's take one of these industries that get bailed out, whether it's airlines, right? Let's say we didn't bail out airlines or, you know, any hotels or any of these companies. The way the politicians want to present it is that if we didn't bail out these industries, they would disappear. Like, oh, we need airlines, we need hotels. We can't just let these countries go these industries go bankrupt. How will we get around, right? See, that's the lie of the bailout. If the government didn't bail out the companies, they would go through a normal bankruptcy. During a bankruptcy, the companies don't stop operating, right? They continue to operate. What happens is they don't have to pay their debts anymore, which is why they're in bankruptcy because of all the money they borrowed. But they go through a bankruptcy, and who gets wiped out? The common stockholders, the unsecured creditors. There are investors who lose. But the businesses, to the extent that they have value, survive. And new owners come in. And more importantly, they're going to be more responsible than the owners who failed. And the companies are not going to have all the debt. The debt gets wiped out. So now that the businesses no longer have all the debt, they can be more efficient. They can offer a more competitive product. They can lower prices. Maybe they can pay better wages because they're not hampered with all this debt. Instead, we're keeping these companies alive by loading up with even more debt. So they're going to be even less efficient. And some companies need to shrink. You know, the government is saying we have to make sure that companies don't fire any workers. Why? What if they need to fire workers? What if they have too many workers? That's why they're not profitable, because they have to downsize their workforce to make the business competitive and reflect the free market demand for the products they're making or the services they're providing. If we keep payrolls bloated, that is a waste of labor resources. We're squandering those resources. We need to free up that labor to go work someplace else where the market would direct it. But now we're creating these zombie companies that are wards of the state. And the cost to society of subsidizing these businesses far exceeds the benefits to the people who are being bailed out. But again, that's the unseen consequence of government interference. Let the free market function, and we will have an optimal allocation of resources, and we will all collectively benefit from a higher standard of living. But we have the government interfering and diverting resources from where the market wants them to where the politics demand. Everybody suffers because we have a lower quality of living, a lower standard of living, because we're increasing production costs and making the economy less efficient.
So let's just say we were to make that adjustment. Let's say we are open to it. Let's say we get somebody that's strong enough that can present that to the American people. And let's just say he can convince 51% of people to say, I'm with it. I'm with it. Let's go through this process of allowing the too big to fail. Let's go through the process of, you know, me going back to maybe I can do 100% financing on a home. Maybe it goes to 60% financing on a home. If you don't have 40% of down payment on a house, you probably shouldn't own a house. You probably should rent a house. Let's just say we go through the
look, who benefits, right? Who benefits from government policy to guarantee mortgages? It's actually not the person who's buying the house. It's the person who has a house to sell. Because by guaranteeing mortgages, the government is helping to prop up real estate prices. If there was no government guarantee mortgages, right? If individuals had to convince the bank to loan them money based on their own credit quality, their own ability to repay, the banks would not be willing to loan as much money, and they would want more collateral. They wouldn't give you a mortgage with 3% down or 5% down. They would want 20, 25% down, right? And so if that happened, real estate prices would collapse, right? So people would still be able to buy houses. They just wouldn't have to borrow nearly as much money to do it because the price would be lower. So maybe you can't afford a 20% down payment when the house you want to buy is $300,000, but if the house drops to $100,000, you could afford to pay 20%, right? You won't have all this debt. The beneficiary of the policy is the guy who already owns the house who wants to sell it. He can sell it for a much higher price if the government's going to guarantee the mortgage of the buyer. But then you have a bubble. You have a phony real estate market. I want to have a real estate market that reflects the free market, not government subsidies, because the government now has to keep this whole pyramid going with more and more debt. But yet it is going to be a very impossible political battle, because right now, right, the Republicans have already signed on to socialism. They have basically agreed with the Democrats that we need big government, right? And it's a logical thing, right? The position that the Republicans have is inconsistent logically. The Republicans are saying during good times, the profits should be privatized, but during bad times, we need to socialize the losses. So we need to have low taxes and limited government when times are good, but when times are bad, we need massive government and we have to bail out everybody, even the rich. That doesn't make any sense. At least the Democrats can have a logically consistent, though flawed argument. We need big government all the time. If we need big government during bad times, we need big government during good times. If we're going to socialize the losses, let's socialize the profits, right? That's a consistent argument that I think is going to win, which is why I think that Trump is going to be a one-termer, because I don't think he can outpromise Biden or whoever is the top of the Democratic ticket. When it's a battle between two Democrats, the Democrats are going to win.
Biden. You're saying you don't think Trump beats Biden?
No, and I thought Trump was going to beat Clinton. Very few people did at the time. Because the reason I thought that Trump could beat Clinton is because Trump was telling the truth about how lousy the economy was, and he was promising a real solution. Now he's going to try to perpetuate the same lie that didn't work for Hillary, although now he's going to try to blame the problem on the coronavirus. And maybe that strategy will work. I mean,
do you actually believe Biden is going to beat Trump?
But at this point, look, I don't think the Republicans can outpromise the Democrats, because the election is going to be decided over who is going to give out the most free stuff. And I think the Democrats win that argument. Now, what's going to happen is when we have a complete collapse of the economy, if we have hyperinflation or complete implosion and there's massive poverty, inflation is so bad that they have price controls. And the minute they have price controls, you have shortages, you have black markets. I mean, it's going to be a complete disaster. Then we can have a real campaign between, do we go all in on socialism? Are we so broke? Are we destitute? Are we having this misery and poverty, right? Is it because of too much capitalism and too much greed, right? Or is it because of too much government, too much central planning? Is it the bureaucrats and socialism that destroyed the prosperity that capitalism built, or did socialism build the prosperity and did capitalism destroy it? And so do we need to be a nation of slaves or a nation of free individuals? I mean, that's going to be the real debate between big government and freedom. And hopefully freedom could win that debate. I don't know. I mean, it's a tough call. But on record, are you saying Biden's going to beat Trump? I think Biden will beat Trump, or if Biden ends up not being the nominee for some crazy reason, I think whoever is at the top of the ticket will beat Trump. But I mean, is it a sure thing? No. I mean, I think
what's your percentage? If you were the betting man, you're in Las Vegas, what's your percentage? If you
I say he's 70. I think it's 70, 80% at least that it's going to be Biden.
You think 70, 80% is Biden?
Yeah, because we're still going to be in a recession in November. So you're going to have a bunch of people voting during a recession. And, you know, Trump promised a lot of people to make their lives better, and their lives are going to be worse. And, you know, are they going
Trump
to
wasn't expecting a coronavirus, though. Trump wasn't expecting a pandemic, though.
But no, he was going to lose even without this. We were going to be in recession even without the coronavirus. It was already starting. The economy was already rolling over. The bubble was already deflating. So, yes, this may be his only chance, which is a reason why Trump may be incentivized to keep the shutdown going longer and longer. Because to the extent that everything is still shut down in November, it's easier to blame it on the virus. But let's assume that we try to restart the economy in May or June, and then we're still in deep recession, which we will be by November. It will be harder for Trump to blame the virus. I mean, he will. I mean, I think before the virus, he was going to blame the Fed. But I think the voters are just going to blame Republicans, blame Trump. And look, they are not going to be able to outpromise the Democrats. We're going to have a bidding war over who's going to give out the most free stuff. Who do you think wins that? I just think when you have two people promising bigger government, the Democrats win. It's not going to be an argument of less government versus more government, or capitalism versus socialism. Socialism has already won the debate. Bernie Sanders is now the mainstream of both political parties. I mean, stuff that the Republicans are supporting today, even Bernie Sanders would have been too embarrassed to recommend it 6 months ago.